Hello, friends. So good to be with you this evening. I had to come outside. It's just gorgeous here. It seems like we've had crazy weather over the last few weeks, and now here we are. I am telling you, gorgeous weather. So anyway, you're going to have to put up with me outside for a few minutes. I got something I want to share with you that, Ben, I'll tell you what has been a life lesson. Isn't it amazing how events take place in your life? Things happen that really are life lessons. I have back a few weeks ago, we had this incredible freeze here. And it was like, they said it had never happened like that before, at least in the last 100 years. So that's pretty rare, but it froze. I'm telling you, we had so many pipes that busted. We had water problems. I mean, like an inch of water spread through our church, my house. I had my water pipes busted. It just is in the restroom. Thankfully, it was contained to that area. But we tried to get everything fixed up. We dried out all of the floor, and thought, well, the damage is going to be minimal. Now, see, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want you to liken this to the fact that some of you have had tragedies in your life. You've gone through things that hurt you, wounded you, did a lot of emotional damage, a lot of maybe damage in your family or your finance, and your thoughts are, well, the damage will be minimal. Most people, when they have damage in their life, they just try to cover it up. Basically, we're trying to do the best we can to get from A to B. And so I'm looking at the walls and I'm thinking, well, this is going to be minimal. And it looked okay. I thought, well, all right, we'll make it through this. But after we got everything, I had part of the ceiling torn out. We were going to replace the pipes. But I noticed on the walls, there was just a couple of little places that when I pushed on the walls, the sheetrock walls, they felt soft more than other places. And if you push very hard, you literally can push right through the walls. Well, it had soaked the sheetrock and now it was covered with this thick coat of paint, so it was pretty well hidden. You didn't see it that much. But the sheetrock underneath the paint was just ruined. It was just soaked. And so what I had to do was just tear out all the sheetrock. I had to get to the place where the damage was really done. I liken this to your life a lot of times. What we do is we go through situations where we've been wounded. Maybe it was a loss of a family member, or maybe it was a crisis in our family or a financial crisis. You know how those things come and just gut punch you. They just basically leave you on the ground sucking for air. And we cover it up a lot of times and we don't deal with what's underneath. That's really important. Some of you have had wounds and you covered it up and you think it's going to be all right, but a year down the line, 2 years down the line, you catch yourself still thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? You catch yourself rehearsing how you were done wrong. I'm still mad about that. When you're still mad about something that has taken place a long time ago, that's a good sign that you may have some damage underneath that you need to deal with. You need to set up counseling somewhere. You need to somehow get some help from somebody that can help you go below the surface to try to dig out all of that rot, all of that toxic stuff that's underneath that's been covered up with a beautiful coat of paint. And most people can't see it, but every time you get under pressure over something, suddenly all of that breaks out and you find yourself blowing your top. I'm angry, I'm breaking things, I'm yelling at people, I'm doing things that, I wish I hadn't said that. I know that there's times whenever pressure gets on us and we say something we shouldn't say, but when there's something that's deeper. When it's a reoccurring problem, there's something deeper. And what you have to do, I notice that what we had to do at our church when all of the damage was done, we had to cut all of the walls up about 3 foot and take out all the insulation that had been hidden behind those walls and just pull it all out, because it had sucked up all of this moisture, which basically would have begun to turn to mold, which would have turned to something else, which would have in turn made everybody sick. You see, the thing that you're hiding, the wound that you're hiding inside, it doesn't just stay in one condition. It progresses and becomes more toxic until it affects you and your family members that are just simply close. It's almost like being in a house where mold has broken out. And when that happens, people don't know it's there, but they start getting sick and they don't know why. You understand what I'm saying? And so this is the same with this. Sometimes the wounds that you have, you've covered up, but you don't know that it's still progressing. The mold is still growing, and it will cause sickness to break out in your life. It'll cause sickness to break out in your temperament and in your attitude and your everything, till it just destroys your life. So what you have to do sometimes when you've had tragedies, you have to sometimes take out the damaged area. Now here's what that means. You got to be transparent. You ever been around somebody that, nah, I'm fine, no, nothing wrong with me? Well, and that's fine, that may be the case, but in too many cases, that's not the case. And too many times people are just covering it up, and then they go home and blow up and yell at the kids and yell at everybody else and break things. I mean, come on. So sometimes what you have to do is take out some of the damaged area, which that means you got to be transparent. You can't have walls up. You have to open your heart to let that which is underneath be exposed. It's very important that you understand this. And I don't want to oversimplify it. And if I am, please forgive me for that. But it's just as I was dealing with that at my house today, I was just, because I thought we had all of this taken care of. I mean, this wall that was not good, it looked good. I was so surprised. I couldn't believe this. I thought, no, this is going to be great. And sure enough, I mean, literally, if you push very hard, you actually could probably push your hand through it. But it didn't look like it. It didn't. But it was. It was what was underneath. And that moisture that was under there, even though everything on the outside was dry, everything underneath was wet. It was still wet. It was still holding the moisture, holding the damage. Isn't that how we do sometimes? We think we're all right. We talk to ourselves. We do some self-talk. But inside we're holding pain. We're holding bitterness. We're holding resentment. Well, 25 years ago, he divorced me. 30 years ago, she did this. Well, the church I came from back 25 years ago, this is what they've done, and I've never gotten over it. That's the story of this sheetrock. That's what it is. You've got damage that you've covered over, that you've never dealt with, and therefore it lingers. And it doesn't just stay wet, it turns toxic. It gets toxic to the point that it'll destroy your life. I mean, it'll destroy your life. You can say, well, I love God. I understand, but you're wounded. Well, I love God and I'm a Christian. I understand. Well, I speak the word. I understand, but you still have a wound that needs to be dealt with. And you can tell that it's still there because it keeps coming to the surface. See, that's the thing. Mold doesn't stay inside. It begins to creep out in crevices. It's going to make its way to the surface. And a lot of times when things are coming to the surface, that shouldn't come to the surface, that's when you have to literally look at it and say, wow, is there something in there that I didn't know was there? I mean, you need to ask yourself that. And again, please forgive me if I'm oversimplifying this. I just know that there are a lot of times when we get wounded or disappointed or hurt or betrayed or whatever the case is, and it truly creates a wound in us that a year later we're still wrestling with. Well, I'm just angry. Well, why? That's not what you are. Well, that's just who I am. No. Something has taken you there. So, my question is, did a crisis that happened to you, like a winter storm that came in and busted the pipes that you thought you fixed, are you still reeling from that storm you went through? I mean, it's a good question. See, God's will is for you to be completely, not just healed, but made whole. And it's not enough for you just to say, okay, I'm better. Sometimes you legitimately need to find out what's underneath that's causing the hurt to continue. I would strongly suggest that if you have problems with these areas, I strongly suggest that you seek some counsel. Find somebody. You may have to even pay a counselor. Believe me, it would be worth it. I'll tell you the truth. I personally think that every person at least once a year needs to sit down for counseling, because you go through the year of getting beat up and all of these other things. Sometimes you need to be able to defrag. Now, a lot of you don't know what that means anymore. Back when computers were really just first coming in, we used to have to think about defragging, and what that meant is to condense all of the stuff that has collected on and eliminate it. Some of you need your mind defragged. You've been so overwhelmed with so much junk, and you need some help. And so I want to encourage you today. Don't just carry this. Don't just say, oh, it'll be better. Somebody said, well, you just need to pray. I understand. You do need to do that, but sometimes you need to take an additional step beyond that. And you need to find someone that can really talk you through these things, maybe pray with you about these things. Because it's God's will that you not be filled with rage and filled with unforgiveness and strife, because it'll grow. You remember me telling you the story of those soldiers. They were over in the Middle East somewhere. I forget where it is. Please forgive me, but I can tell you the gist of the story. And it was like one tribe that was at war. It's kind of like with Afghanistan or with Iraq or with, it's like one, because those people are very tribal. And one tribe was actually engaged in warfare with the other. Well, here's what happened. One of the tribes were going along and they stumbled across their enemy's grave, one of the guys that had been on the other side, and they buried him. And these guys were so filled with rage and so filled with hate that they literally dug up his corpse, dug up his body, dug it up and shot it again. I mean, think about that for a moment. You might be carrying some real problems when you've got that kind of thing in you. Now you might say, I'd never do that. I know it. But I have heard people say, yeah, but I was hurt there. And you ask them when. Well, it was a long time ago. Well, I understand that. What that says to me is that you had some damage, you had some water damage, and you never took care of it. You just covered it over. You just painted over it. You put a real thick coat of paint over that wound, but the wound never changed. The wound stayed moist until finally it set up mold and it became toxic. And it may have destroyed your health and destroyed your family. And it will. The rage in you will destroy everything around you if you don't dig it out. So being transparent means you go to someone who's a counselor, and you set up an appointment. You just want to talk to them, and that's when you really open your heart. You're just transparent. This is what I feel. A good counselor will know how to help you process through that. See, because you're going to get wounds in life, and you can't avoid that. I have wounds. I remember, well, no, I actually do remember when I must have been probably 7 years old, 8 years old. I was running down the road, the alley at that time, and I was going to climb a fence. And of course, the fence, the top of the fences, they had the little prongs like this. Well, I climbed up and I slipped and I hung on my arm, and those things just went in, and I was hanging there. I couldn't get off. Someone had to come and lift me off of them. Well, it was obviously tragic. They took me home. They went to stitch it up, and it's an ugly stitch. I mean, it really is. All these years, I mean, I still got the scar here in my arm. But the thing is now, I mean, it's so healed that I have to think about, okay, which arm was that? I still have the scar, but I don't have any pain over it. There's a lot of you that will still have the scar from something that happened, but you don't have any pain over it. It doesn't own you. It doesn't control your emotions. But if you don't, if you don't properly handle that, get it taken care of, infection can set in, and you could lose your arm. You could lose your life. That's still the way a lot of people do. They get wounded, and I even have another on the other arm. I have a motorcycle scar, and again that one. But I have to think which arm was that on. See, that's the deal. Is you will never lose the testimony of this happened to me, and I can see the evidence that it happened. But there's no more pain. There's no more infection. It has no more power over me. The power is dead. Does that make sense to you? So that's what will happen when you take that wound that you have, that damage that you have, that hidden water that has gotten behind the sheetrock of your life, and you take it to someone and they help you tear it out. They do. They help you go in and take out the insulation. What's the insulation? That's the things that we protect ourselves with. Sometimes, literally, even the things we protect ourselves with is holding that toxic crud next to your life. And so you have to get rid of it all. You have to get rid of the things that you protected yourself with. The walls that you put up, you got to take those walls down. You got to become transparent. You got to be willing to eliminate the things that you hide behind. And the reason is because who you are is too important to lose your life over a tragedy that took place back whenever. So this is the thing that I feel God is saying to you today. This is the thing I pray for you about. That you need to get healed. But sometimes you have to take out the junk if you're going to get healed. So I want you to really consider that. I want you to consider talking to someone. Find someone you can trust. Find someone, I think it would be beneficial. Again, like I said, I think everybody needs to go at least once a year. I was thinking of the story in the Bible about foot washing. Because in those days, what they would do is they were out walking all day long, and then when they came home, there was somebody there with a basin of water that washed all of the earth off of them. You understand? See, sometimes we're going through life, we have the earth that has collected on us, the pain, the pressure, the anxiety of this earth collects on us. And what we have to occasionally do is go and sit down and let someone wash our feet. The feet represents where we've been. That dirt, it represents where we've been, the road we've traveled, the pains, the bruises that we've been through. You need to let somebody wash your feet and help get all of that off of you. And I think it's going to help you. So that's what I've got for you today. And I think this is very important. I love you guys. I truly do. I'm so thankful for you. I appreciate you joining with me. My goal is to try to sit down every day and share with you something that will move you along in life. I don't want to just tell you a Bible story. I legitimately want to try to give you something that will move you forward in life. Please push like, push share, and also subscribe. You can go to my website, jerryedmon.com, and I've got a lot of resources there that I think will help you. But your days are going to be good in front of you. God's got good things for you. I love you and I appreciate you, and I just want to say thank you for being my friend. Thank you. I mean that with all my heart. Thank you for being my friend. Okay? I'm going to look forward to seeing you next time. I want you guys to have a wonderful, wonderful evening. God bless you.